Okay, I do apologize. So you guys can hear me now? Okay. Yes. It's okay. I'm gonna try to be a little quieter. All right. So you guys probably missed a lot of what I said, but we're gonna go ahead and move forward. Um, our lesson is dealing with the 21st century Purim, and we were beginning to discuss what does that mean. What do I mean by again the 21st century Purim? Somebody can repeat. Just turn it up and see if that's.
I'm not exactly sure what you mean, but like I was saying, when I read through the story of Purim, I notice a lot of recurring themes for what it means to be Israel, having favor in every way, being able to prevail over dire circumstances, using fasting and prayer as a means of getting Yah's attention, and just being divinely aligned. These are some of the recurring themes that we see in a lot of the biblical examples, and it's also noticeable in the story of Purim. And so I'm not sure if that's what you mean, but this is something that I can carry with me into the 21st century in my daily life. But hopefully
Okay.
you'll explain.
No. Okay. Anybody else? Minister Yosef, do you have something? I think that mic is. Go ahead. Yeah. Can we find some more?
Shabbat shalom.
Yes.
Shabbat shalom.
So, in regards to the 21st century, I would say that it's a lot of the things that may, like like Sister Constance was mentioning, it's a lot of things that's going on in this day and age. It's we s- we may still be faced with some of the same issues as it was back then, but it may be more on a subtle level, but it's still in existence.
Okay. Before we get started, for those, I mean, we've been going over this for 2 or 3 weeks. Um, do we see what we can apply in our lives to what happened uh, in the book of Esther? Are there some things that are significant to our lives today? Are there lessons learned um, through that story that we can apply to our life? Dr. Tay? Be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful. No, no, I'm not talking. Be careful of pulling that. Can you just do me a favor and go find any microphones that's out here?
Shabbat Shalom.
Janai, I need you to go out
When I
there and
think
find
about the lessons that could be applied to me in my life from the story of Purim, I think one of the things that I'm holding very close to me is the concept of divine providence and remembering that El has orchestrated things so, and just to have confidence, even in the midst of trials and tribulations, that no matter what I'm going through, that Yah can use those situations that I'm going through, not only for my good, but for the collective good of his people. And so I just was hearing Brother Alonzo yesterday mentioning something about the Bible talks about glorying in tribulation, and so I think that's the thing that I'm holding close to me in the midst of this story of Purim, is that Yah is the master orchestrator, that He's in control of everything, and so there's no need for me to be worrisome. There's no need for me to fear. There is need for me to work, right? There is need for me to put my gifts toward His movement. There's need for me to fast and pray and to do my part. But so long as I do my part and I fall in line with Yah's will, there is no need for me to worry.
Okay, good. So let's go ahead and let us go to our lesson. We're going to go ahead and go to our first slide. and we're going to just talk about our 21st century Purim. You see her in downtown? Yeah, see, hey. There you go. 21st century Purim.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and go to our first slide.
In the time of Queen Esther, the Jewish people were a minority living under King Ahasuerus in a dominant Persian culture that did not reflect their covenant values. They were dispersed, politically vulnerable, and dependent on a system they didn't control.
Stop. Before we finish reading, I want us to read the story, think about what we read, and then we're going to talk about how this is relevant to us, right? So, huh?
I said it that first. This first, I mean, we didn't have to go very far
Yeah.
into the reading. That's now.
Well, we're going to start all over because I want us to think about Purim then and Purim now, right? There are some things that are the same. Oh, they had horses. I mean, we got 410 horsepower. You know, we got, but different times, but same thing. So let's start all over again when reading this. Let's read it and let's talk about it with those values being implemented and used today. Okay? Let's start all over.
In the time of Queen Esther, the Jewish people were a minority living under King Ahasuerus in a dominant Persian culture that did not reflect their covenant values. They were dispersed, politically vulnerable, and dependent on a system they didn't control. That reality feels very familiar in the 21st century. Many believers today live and work inside systems: corporate, academic, governmental, digital. They are not structured around biblical convictions. Faith isn't outlawed, but it is often sidelined, softened, and socially discouraged. Esther concealing her identity mirrors a modern dynamic. Self-editing. Oh, wow.
So let's just deal with that first paragraph. What does that mean to anybody? How do we relate that? Come on, Dr. Tate, you got some oohs. So what does that mean?
I mean, self-editing. Wow. Well, first I'm responding to the characterization of Queen Esther concealing her identity to self-editing, because it's not that Queen Esther necessarily, it's not that she's going against what her culture is, that she's just being wise and prudent, as Mordecai instructed her, to not lead with that, to not make that so public, and to share that information in the right timing. It's wisdom. And so this concept of self-editing really also struck me, because I think about how I communicate what we believe, how I communicate Yah's truth, is not, I get self-editing in the sense that I understand first who I'm speaking with, to understand what words I should choose that are not going to stop someone from hearing the rest of what I'm saying.
Before you continue, Dr. Tate, do we want to look up what that means and read kind of a functional definition for those that are not familiar with that phrase, self-editing, a combo word? Do you have something? It's Dr. Tate looking it up too.
Okay. Well, just off my memory, it would be to identify themselves, self-examination.
Okay.
When we take communion, I hear the scripture when it says, "Let a man examine himself before he eateth this bread and drinketh this cup. And if he does not do that, he eateth and drinketh himself into damnation." So when the execution, the law was not in our favor at the time, and when I see self-editing, she not just edited herself, but the things that was attached to herself, which was her heritage. In the
Okay.
book of Esther, we don't see the name of the Yehovah, we don't see the name of the Adonai, but we do see his ritualistic acts that were a part of our heritage.
Okay.
So when she examined herself, she not just only examined herself because damnation was on us, she examined the heritage that was attached to herself.
Okay. Good. Dr. Tate, let's read what a definition of self-editing.
So social self-editing. So there's a number of different definitions, but I'm using one in the sphere of psychology, as some of the initial definitions that you get relate to like self-editing when you're writing, like a text. In social psychology, this is often called self-monitoring. It involves scanning a room, reading the vibe, and adjusting your behavior to ensure that you're perceived a certain way.
Don't you remember? I mean, have you guys heard that? You need to read the room. There's some, it's not being phony, but you got to read the room. Now, if you just a wild and flamboyant person and you go into a room, a bunch of conservative, hey, y'all, hey, you can't go in there like that. Is anybody else doing that? Right? So you gotta act the way the room is. You don't always show certain sides of you. There are certain sides of me that you all don't see. I know you don't see. Right? It's kind of funny that, well, go ahead.
Shalom.
Shalom.
I mean, it's almost akin to, how it would be called code switching today. And really it's like what Dr. Tate said, reading the room and just being able to understand the environment that you're in and then, act accordingly. Let's say you work in corporate America. I can't talk to my CFO the way I would somebody I've known for 10 or 15 years and I'm out in the street. That would be crazy, So it's really understanding who you're around and your surroundings, being observant, being aware, and then using wisdom and acting accordingly, But that don't mean to also, it doesn't mean forsake who you are, It's not like Esther said, I'm not a Jew, that would be crazy, So we're not going against, who we are. It's just that we're using wisdom to be who we are in an environment that isn't necessarily comfortable or accepting of that.
Yeah. What about, I know Dr. Tate does it. I think my wife does it. You ever had your eye on somebody or you got some people in, not your inner circle, but a little bit your circle, and you haven't really ministered to them yet? You just kind of listen to kind of what they think, and then you just kind of evaluate, and then you just wait for the right time, right? So we got to scan, our environment. And then Yah gives us wisdom on how to deal with what we have to deal with within that environment. Okay? Let's keep reading, Dr. Tate. Franklin. Get up.
Today, that might look like toning down convictions at work to avoid conflict, avoiding certain conversations online to protect reputation, or reshaping spiritual language so it feels more culturally acceptable. The pressure isn't always persecution. Sometimes it's subtle social cost. Promotions, influence, friendships, public perception, all of these can be affected by openly living out faith.
Okay. Who wants to comment on that? Some people tone it down. I've seen some people. I'm like, oh, she is for real Laquita Jenkins outside of work. Like, I've seen people that be on the set. I don't care if they were lawyers, right? You catch them in certain, you wouldn't even know. So we got to tone it down, right? But we got to move in that environment to get to where we want to be. All right. Who had their hand up?
Kane, it's really this concept that I'd like to share. Some people say when we act accordingly to what we just read, it's almost as if you're selling out because you're not being true to yourself. And I don't necessarily want to call it that. I would call it buying in. We've probably all heard that before. And it's acting according to our environment. Like Laquita, you a lawyer working in corporate America, corporate law, big law, whatever. But you can't act like you in a neighborhood with the people you grew up with. That's just common sense. And here's a personal example too that, I believe could have affected me. And I've shared to some people, my beliefs. And, let's say we go out to happy hour or going out to a quarterly outing and everybody's drinking and I'm the only one there not drinking. So that kind of puts, like, everybody's looking at me like, okay, hey, why isn't he drinking? You know, does he think he's too good for us or whatever? So I know it's stuff like that, just small things I know people are thinking about, and that can affect their perception of me, whether it's positive or negative. And, you know, we see it here in the text, you know, whether it's a promotion, you know, influence, friendships, public perception, whatever, all of that stuff has been, you know, taken into account.
Yeah, we have to, and I know we're going to get a whole bunch of thumbs up. Maybe not from some of the younger people. But there are things that, I mean, times where you deal with your children. Now, I think it might be a little different because, you know, we gonna get our children. But as your kids start to get a little older, or as you in a relationship, you don't always say what probably need to be said, right? There's a right time to say it. If the temperature is up here, there are certain times you just don't say certain things. You know, you wait till the temperature kind of get down here, then you subtle with it, right? Because then they can hear you. Sometimes with our children, when they get past 13, 14, it's the same thing. I was at a funeral. My children were at a funeral, and there was some grown people at the funeral. And our culture is to cover our heads during prayer. Well, I've seen some young and some old that came to a funeral and didn't have materials to cover their head. Was that the right time for me to rebuke them inside the funeral? Right. So, you know, we have to be wise in everything that we do, in every situation, because I use this phrase all the time, and I kind of live by this, that you should be edifying at all times. When you correct your kids, you correct them, you should be edifying, right? When things ain't really cool in your relationship, you talk because you want to fix it. You want to edify it. You know, you want the relationship to grow strong and be whatever. But if you say it at the wrong time, say it the wrong way, it's not going to do that, right? So we got to ask Yah for that, because, you know, sometimes we get in our way. Sometimes, you know, you just want to pop, snap, you know, say what you want to say right then. And then we got to contain that. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our next.
Divine providence over earthly decrees. The figure of Haman represents more than an ancient villain. He embodies systemic opposition. His offense at Mordecai led him to weaponize political power and legal structures to attempt the destruction of an entire people.
Do you have people that try to weaponize in a position? Right? So we deal with the Purim. We deal with that stuff all the times in our life. People are weaponizing. You know? Well, yeah. Okay. Right. All right. Come on.
In the 21st century, opposition often appears less violent, but no less strategic. It can manifest through legal pressures, social marginalization, media narratives, or ideological hostility toward faith-based convictions. The decree against the Jews seemed final and irreversible, sealed by royal authority. Yet, Purim reveals that earthly decrees are not ultimate when divine providence is at work. What appears settled in the natural realm may already be overturned in the spiritual.
Ain't that something? I'm going to speak to this tomorrow. Let's read that last two sentences again. Let's talk about that last two sentences.
Yet, Purim reveals that earthly decrees are not ultimate when divine providence is at work. What appears settled in the natural realm may already be overturned in the spiritual.
Man, so as the people of Yah, I always emphasize knowing who you are. I'm trying not to look. I'm trying not to give you my preach word today. But when you know who you are, like, I mean, really know. I mean, really know. I don't mean playing church, playing Yisrael, putting on your white. I talk about reading these stories and going over these stories and going over these festivals, so that we know, without a shadow of a doubt, that earthly decrees that are given or put on us, whether it's through a job, whether it's through medical conditions, whether it's through somebody that's an authority at the bank when you're trying to get a house, whatever it is, that's an earthly decree. But when we operate in the spirit, the spiritual things have the ability to break earthly decrees. And so we have to learn how to function and operate in the spirit to where it becomes natural. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, because you are functioning in a spiritual realm. And that supersedes, all earthly things. It's hard. I thank Yah for, my wife. I thank Yah for Dr. Tate, Minister Brooke Yah, Minister Elder Nate, because you're going to go through that journey, through that walk, where it seems like all is against you. And sometimes you need folks going up in the spirit and grabbing for you, right? We get weak. And when you're going through, listen, just being surrounded by these people ain't going to necessarily your situation. You still got to go through your journey. But man, just to be around people that I can just have a meal with, that I can just talk to, for a minute, it just takes my mind off of my situation. And so it continues to encourage me, every day. And we need that. We need that spiritual bond. We need prayers from one another, because sometimes you shouldn't be too weak. Sometimes a person is sick. A person is in pain. And you're going to say, well, just pray. You may have a second or two to get in the spirit and pray. But those that ain't sick, you got minutes and hours to stay in the spirit, right? So we have to intercede for one another. We have to become that Mordecai, where we're interceding. We got to come that Queen Esther, where we're interceding on behalf of one another. And so I like that. Does anybody want to comment on that, on those last two sentences? I'm going to ask some about young people. Frank, what you got, Frank? No, Frank don't have nothing. Frank. Anybody else? What do you guys have on that? Let me have one of them young folks read the last two sentences. Come on, y'all.
The pressure isn't always persecution. Sometimes it's subtle social cost.
Wait. What are we reading from?
Which one was the last one? Okay. Yet Purim reveals that earthly decrees are not ultimate when divine providence is at work. What appears settled in the
Natural.
natural realm may already be overturned in the spiritual.
Okay, what does that mean to you all? Does that mean anything to you? Come on, Frank. Come on, y'all. I need y'all engaged. I need y'all paid.
It means like no matter what, like what your problems may look like to you, if like y'all is in control, so if he says it's defeated, then it's defeated.
Okay, told y'all. You know, there are some things you struggle with. People say dogs smell fear. I'm running. You can say what you want to say. I see a dog. No, don't run. Just stand there. I haven't got look, I haven't gotten there yet, right? In our spiritual life, some of us haven't gotten there yet. Hey, so yeah. Hey, some of us may not be there. Listen, I'm guilty at certain times when they say your life's getting cut off at midnight. How do you not worry? When certain things happen in our life, how we don't feel a certain type of way. Now, we might have to check ourselves. After it happened and you get worried, you need to collect yourself. You need to collect yourself because it's natural to feel that way. You collect yourself, you take a deep breath, you repent, and then you start asking Yah to give you solutions. But some people fall apart when certain things happen. Okay? Mr. Yosef?
When I hear that divine providence over earthly decrees, I hear that verse in Isaiah 46 where it says 9 through 10, where it talks about he called an ending from the beginning. So that's what I hear, because it's like we know El is in control. He know the outcome. Mm-hmm. We may not know what we got to go through to get there, but if the outcome is going to be favorable, because y'all don't lose. So that's what I hear.
Yeah. And that's you not having confidence. That's you not having the word rooted in you. Right? So if you don't have confidence, of course you're going to be scared. But that's when faith is supposed to, yes, sir. Dr. Tate, you had your hand up.
All right. So when I hear divine providences over earthly decrees, for one, Yah's the spirit over all spirit, and he's the spirit over all flesh. Mm-hmm. Mashiach turned around and said, what is born of the spirit is the spirit, what is born of the flesh is flesh. So anything that comes from Yah by the spirit should automatically be first or second nature in our spirit. So when we look at the spirit of understanding, which is one of the spirits on the menorah, right? Understanding should not click into our head. That means it came into one ear and out the other. It should click into your spirit. Mm-hmm. So when things click into your spirit, then you automatically become one with the divine. And remember when Restored Chief Shepherd used to say, a little drop of pee in the water, mess the whole thing up. Mm-hmm. And it has to be that way with doubt. Once you become one in the spirit, it has to be unbreakable, because now if that does happen, you become your own dam in your own spiritual flow. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So yeah. So the understanding of these things have to lie in the spirit rather than in your head.
Hold on. I always say, talk sound good when you ain't facing no issues. And so I just, let's be real about it. When we can sit around here, for an hour and a half, 2 hours and talk about certain things, and we're not thinking about the issues that we have, or we may not have issues right now, that sound good until it comes. And that's when the test comes. Right? Dr. Tate?
As the young children were rereading these last two sentences, the question that came in my mind was, can I reflect or think on a time where an earthly decree was made by someone in some kind of earthly authority that didn't align with what Yah had planned for me and didn't align with his divine providence? And And what came to me was, I don't think this is a part of my testimony I've shared with people more generally, but when I was away at school and college, it was my first year of college, and we all the people who are pre-med intending to go to medical school, you get assigned these meetings with this one mentor, a much older white guy who would give advice about going to pre-med and the track and what you need to do. And it was the very beginning of my freshman year, and I hadn't done anything to, there's no grades really, no nothing for this person to know, my worth academically, if you will. And the first advice he gave me is that you should find another career path.
Really?
Because I've seen many people come and go before you that don't make it. So I think you might be wasting your time. And I'm a freshman in college. I go to a school where there are a few people that look like me, in a neighborhood and community where there are a few people that look like me. And the first piece of advice this person wants to give me when I tell him what my path and my interest is it's not going to work. I've already seen it. I have the forethought. I have the knowledge. I've been through the path myself. You're not going to do it. And then I think about Yah's divine providence. I think about Yah's plan for my life. And, at the time, I didn't know how the story was going to end with respect to that particular goal. But now I'm on the other side of that. And I think about the ways in which Yah has blessed me to be a blessing to other people in the nation with respect to the knowledge that I was able to learn in school and my profession. And I think about how grateful I am that Yah put people in my life like my parents and our chief shepherd, who instilled in me from a very young age that there is nothing that's impossible to us if we just are in accordance and in alignment with Yah's will, and how this decree, if you will, by the person who was supposed to be the end all and all this knowledge about how to get a kid to medical school tells me very early, starting off as a freshman, that I can't do it. I told Yah that something was put deep in me here in his house, that I didn't believe that decree, right? And that I didn't let that distract me or discourage me from the path that I went down. And so I just say Toda Yah for the things that we learn here in Yah's house and the things that we instill and to teach to the young children, because they're going to go out into this world and people are going to tell them just by looking at the color of their skin, or just by looking at where they come from, or the finances their family might come from, and they make judgments and try to sow seeds of doubt in our children. But if Yah has a different plan, that plan's going to come to fruition.
Amen. Totally. The Bible talks about the day you hear my voice, harden not your heart. And I don't think we know what that means. How do we hear Yah's voice? You hearing Yah's voice now. Yah ministers to us through Purim, through the scriptures. And it becomes, like Dr. Tate, it becomes so much a part of you. You hear it so much that it becomes part of your natural fabric, that Dr. Tate didn't have to go to the Bible and read a Bible verse, because the Bible verse was already in her. And we're supposed to get it in us, because things are going to come your way that you should have been preparing for. Don't be prepared to fight big boy Robert, right? When you never fought before. Right? You're going to have to get some bouts in before you try to fight. So it's the same thing. There are things that are going to come at you, and guess what? Y'all going to punish you. You're not going to succeed. Because there are certain things that you were supposed to get that Yah was trying to feed you for 5 years, for several years. And now it's time to pay. Now it's going to come your way whether you internalize what you were being fed or you didn't. The question is, are you going to overcome 7 years from now? And you're going to overcome if you internalize this stuff. if you let the word feed you and feed your spirit. But if you just took it, you just slept, you just like, I'm just coming because my friends are here. Or I'm just coming as a traditional Jew, but I never really got nothing in you. That when that time comes, right, when the test comes, you're going to fail the test. And so we have to make sure that we're not here playing. One of the things we try to get over to our young people, you're going to go away to school, you're going to get older, you're going to have some kids, you're going to be in a relationship, and some things you're going to fail at because you didn't get the training when the training was being given. And that's why I, get on our young folks to pay attention, right? Get this, because this information is going to help you. Let's go ahead and move on. Did we finish that? Okay, let's go on to our next slide. Position with purpose.
Position with purpose. Ooh. The declaration spoken to Esther, that she may have come into the kingdom for such a time as this, speaks directly into the modern age. Esther's royal position was not accidental. It was providential placement. Likewise, those living in the 21st century are not here by mistake. We are positioned in an era of technological acceleration, global connectivity, moral complexity, and rapid cultural shifts. Rather than longing for another generation, Purim calls us to recognize divine timing in our own. The platforms, professions, and influence we carry may be the very tools appointed for this moment. The story invites believers to see their placement not as coincidence, but as calling.
Man, sometimes we don't feel good about ourselves. Sometimes we have our sister Constance say, who am I? What can I do? I only been here 2 years. Right? You got your brother Alonzo's. You got your brother Charles. You look at elders and you look at the things they know. They be like, man, I ain't gonna never get there. But everything that we do, where we're at on February the 28th, 2026, Yah wanted you to be at. Right? We at different places, and you may say, why I got to go through this journey? I can guarantee you there's somebody in this world that's going through 10 times worse than you. And so the development, how can I be developed going through what I'm going through? Because listen, don't nobody want to go through no mess, right? Don't nobody want to go through no struggle. I was talking to Elder Nate, who just got out of surgery yesterday. I said, man, I'm telling you, my prayer is, don't let me go into surgery. I don't like a needle. And just to imagine somebody putting me to sleep and cutting me open and doing something, I just can't fathom the thought. Right? But we go through these journeys and we go through these heartaches and we go through pain, and we all going to experience it at some point. And I go back to what I said a few minutes ago, that Yah is building you up to deal with that. He's molding you to deal with that because there's something on the other side of that. There was something on the other side of Mordecai crying and going into sackcloth and ashes. Oh, you think Mordecai took pleasure in crying and yelling? You think he took pleasure in the fear that he had, knowing that his relatives and his cousins and all of the nation was going to be killed? But there was something on the other side. It was a testimony. There was something on the other side of that. There was a message in 2026 that was given to you because of what Mordecai suffered and what he went through. I think it's so profound. We don't talk about it. I talked to Elder Nate a couple of days ago. that the Bible didn't explain. But Mordecai said, don't tell them you're a Jew. That was divine insight. I understand kind of why he said it, but he didn't know that he was. I think we talked about this last Wednesday in our Bible study class. That sometimes you say things out of inspiration. You don't know why you're saying it, but it's just to you. It's just wisdom. To you, it just makes sense. But to Yah, it's divine inspiration. And so we'll talk about that a little later. Why David said Mordecai said what he said. All right, let's continue on. I don't know if we finished or not. Okay. All right, can I get a reader? Are we in influence?
Influence often comes from within the
Oh,
system.
what does that mean? What does that mean to some of us? What does that mean, Ronnie? Oh, okay. Come on. Okay. Just anybody.
I'm just saying that Yah has people in places everywhere. You
Okay.
never know where his divine power may enter into your situation.
Okay, good. Somebody else? Amy?
Like, whenever I think about influence, I always think about like how the school system is set up. It's set up and has always been set up to aid like the Industrial Revolution. They're trying to raise laborers. So yeah, you're influenced like from everything that's surrounding you, basically.
Okay. Anybody else? Minister Yosef?
That the influence comes from within. That's why Yah, like he used Esther, he put her in that position. He'll place you somewhere where now Yah can operate through that system, through you. So that's
Okay. Good. I like that. Dr. Tate?
It's related to both the last two comments by Minister Yosef and by our sister Amy. I think it's important to remember that influence can be bidirectional, right? If we're not careful, we can be unduly influenced by the systems of the world that we should not be of, but that we are, in. But on the flip side, which is what Queen Esther did, we can influence the systems that are around us. So you can influence the school system, you can influence your place of work, you can influence the government. There's so many ways that as Yisrael, or as any peoples, you can influence the systems that you are operating inside of. And so I think Purim also teaches us that, is that, she found herself in a position very proximate to power. And that if we find ourselves in positions proximate to power, that we not only have power with El, but we also have power with man, and we can use those positions close to power, in power, to be able to influence it for the good of Yah's people and for the good of Yah's calling.
Good. And I enjoyed all those answers. Influence comes from within the system. You can influence the system, or you can influence the people within the system. Somebody had to go to jail. There's going to be somebody great that's going to come out of jail. Right? In all aspects or of this world, we have to be put in those places. Woo, I'm glad I wouldn't put, right? But that's Yah's will. We say, let thy will be done. I don't want to go and do 7 years because y'all want Marco. Ooh, y'all send somebody. I don't want to be in that system. But you have systems. You have access to a family system. There are people within your family. There are people that are within, what's the word? Your friends, your environment that Yah wants, that you're going to be able to influence. So let's go ahead and read about influence often comes from within the system.
Esther didn't overthrow Persia. She operated inside it. That's huge. In the 21st century, many believers wrestle with whether they should withdraw from culture or engage it. Purim shows the power of presence within systems, government, business, media, education. Being positioned inside influence structures can be part of divine strategy. Instead of abandoning difficult environments, sometimes we are placed there for transformation from within.
Bring that back up. I was trying to read something real quick. It was something that was said. In terms of many believers wrestle with whether they should withdraw from culture or engage in it. What do you think about that? Should we withdraw from culture? I got you. I got a Bible verse. Bible say be, what did it say about don't be of this world? No. It says be not, be transformed. Be not conformed to this world. So let me ask you this then. Should we withdraw from culture?
No, that's the answer.
The Bible just said, I just gave you a Bible verse.
Cain, you did. But it's a lot of things that have been created for Israel to do their job. But where my mind was going before you proposed your question is the police system. You know, a lot of people say that it's systemic racism in the police system. And I've had the ideas to want to join the police and try to be the change. You know, now I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but, you know, that's sort of what this made me think of. Okay, well, hey, if I entertain the culture, then I can join this system and try to make that change. But if I don't engage, then I have no opportunity to make a change at all. Maybe I could try to go down some other rabbit hole to make a change, but how efficient would that be? We're going to need y'all's intervention.
Mm-hmm. Should I go? Because there's a whole bunch of sinners that need to be saved. Should I go to the strip clubs every week?
She got set with sinners.
Huh?
She got set with sinners.
So you saying you? Go ahead, Dante.
Low to your second question. You don't have to sit in a strip club every week to find the lost sheep of the house of Yisrael. I am sure they frequent multiple locations in addition to the strip club. Amen. But before that, crazy question. I had intended to respond to the first about withdrawing from culture or engaging in it. Mm-hmm. You know, I too would answer that no, you should not withdraw from culture, but with the caveat and the nuance that you have to be careful. You have to be wise. You have to watch and pray. Because if you're not careful while you're trying to influence the system might completely influence you. Mm-hmm. And so just following along with the example that our brother Alonzo gave about, okay, let's say somebody wants to join the police force with the goal of changing the system from within. Well, no matter what type of, whether it be a police force or a school or whatever the institution is, you're going to be institutionalized. Mm-hmm. Like that is the goal. The goal is to strip you down, to give you the thoughts and the ways that they want to operate and they want to think about something. And in the midst of that institutionalization, if you're not careful, if you're not wise, if you're not watching and praying, even without knowing, you pick up the culture and the ways of the world that can be in conflict with Yah if you're not careful.
Sure.
And so, yes, we need to engage with it. There's so many things that we can take out of it and use to the glory of El, right? We need to engage with things like ChatGPT. We need to engage with technology, all of like the ways that we can be interconnected. We need to engage with TikTok and social media and Instagram because we can reach more of Yah's sons and daughters because we are ever interconnected in this culture. But we have to also recognize that being engaged in the TikTok and Instagram and all these things can get you down a rabbit hole of being engaged in things that you have no business engaging in.
10 hours
and
a day. 10 hours a day long TikTok.
So you have to be mindful of all of those things, but engaging in it in a thoughtful way, being watchful and being prayerful can be to the glory of Elohim.
Good. Toda. Go ahead.
as Dr. Tate was speaking, I was reminded of, I'm not sure if anyone has ever seen 60 Days In, where they take people, regular
jail thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
regular civilians that come into
You know
the
what I'm saying, Dr. Tate?
Oh, well, they take regular civilians and they put them in jail for 60 days. And each one of them are in jail for their own specific reason. I think I remember seeing one where there was like a pastor or some sort of youth church leader who came, this guy was black. I can't fully remember, but sometimes they do go into the system and they are in there doing drugs and making hooch and having fights and all types of, joining gangs for protection, and they completely lose sight of
Yeah.
their initial mission, why they were going into the jail system, to make a change and to help inside a certain mind frame. But if we are not on our guard, if we are not divinely placed, then we can go ahead and corrupt what the original mission was.
Yeah, like, so Dr. Tate goes to non-mandatory conferences. You know, some of us are professional. I could see Brother Alonzo, going with his peers to golf outings. Things are. How you gonna catch fish if you don't ever go to the pond or to the lake? Right? So we have to be engaged. Listen, how do you minister to anybody if you so holier than thou that you don't do nothing? If it's not bait there related, I'm not going. No, I'm
To go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish.
So unity and spiritual discipline, it matters. We have to have spiritual discipline. We have to get down on our knees and pray. We got to read our Bibles, right? We got to draw closer to Yah. And so it still matters. Let's go ahead and just read this paragraph.
Before Esther approached the king, she called for a corporate fast. In an age obsessed with speed and self-promotion, Purim reminds us that collective humility and spiritual discipline create breakthroughs. We live in a distracted generation. The lesson? Slow down. Pray. Align. Major shifts often begin privately before they show publicly.
Right? We always looking for the fix. We want the outcome, but we don't want the process that it takes to get to the outcome. I had a friend who was dealing with some corporate issues, legal stuff, and he was talking about these suits and the different suits that he was bringing against the company. I said, "Oh man," I said, "You have a lawyer?" He said, "Nope. As long as I got Chat GPT." Right? And so we rely on technology, Chat GPT. We rely on the counsel of friends and things like that to help us. But the world is going to discover that that's a temporary fix. If something is going on in my body, I don't want no doctor giving me no temporary fix, right? I want the permanent solution. And so, even in talking about that, even when we think about from a medical perspective, there are some things that you can be healed from, right? That the doctors don't tell you. They're just gonna give you the pills that take this. Well, yeah, I mean, metformin keeping your blood sugar okay, but it ain't delivering you, right? There are certain things that help with your blood pressure, but it's not delivering you. So we want to get to the source. We want to get to complete deliverance where that thing don't come back. And that's what we have to do when it comes to Yah and when it comes to being unified and having spiritual discipline, right? And so I want to encourage you that we help one another to get there. Sometimes you're just going through and you're not even thinking rational. I know we all have friends that you were like, boy, you stupid, or girl, like you don't see what's going on. They so blind and smitten with love that they can't see, right? And they need somebody to. Yeah. And so we gotta be unified in that way. Don't make it just all about you. And we have to be intentional on having conversation, just checking in. You see people in the temples checking in. They waiting for you to say, hey, how you doing? What's going on with you? Right? And you can help them. And so that unity is necessary. Don't wait until somebody approaches you. We got to be active. We got to approach one another. Amen? Amen. Anybody have anything before we move on? Next slide. Yes, sir.
Shalom. I just want to comment on what you were talking about. Salvation, true salvation is only going to come from our Adonai Yashach Mashiach. And like you were saying, the world's mechanics, it has limitations. That metformin, ChatGPT gets stuff wrong all the time.
All the time, yeah.
I ask ChatGPT simple stuff that you can be found on a simple Google search or textbook stuff. It should easily be able to pull, and it gets it wrong all the time. So those things have limitations, and Yah is the only thing that doesn't have limitations. And
Amen.
through Yah, we don't have limitations. So I told Yah that that's not our mindset to want to be of the world and want to depend on the world's limited mechanics.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Told Yah.
I don't know if because we go through what we go through, I don't believe that most of us believe that we don't have no limitations. I think that we believe that we're limited. You know why? Because we've been limited our entire life. And so we pray, we say, yeah, I believe, but I think somewhere, like we got to change the subconscious. Because sometimes we say a whole bunch of things out of our mouths, but even back, you say it, but you really don't believe it. Like I can say right now, and everybody may not want to be, but we don't believe that we can be millionaires. We got hope that we can be millionaires. Listen, having hope and belief is two different things. But we gotta lock in. Because if you living right and you doing all that the Bible commanded, whatever you want, the Bible said just ask. Just ask and believe it. Now you got to hold on to it more than 1 week. You got to hold on to it when they cut your lights off. You got to hold on to it when things ain't going your way. Right? You got to hold on to it because it's part of your test, but it's also part of Satan's plan to continue to throw things your way and discourage you. He asked when he was with Job. He said, where you, man? Where you going? He said, I'm going to and fro, looking who I can deceive. Right? You eat all your healthy stuff, and then you in the hospital for something. You sick. And then you all of a sudden stop believing that the natural foods can heal you. You said, no, I'm going to take this medicine. You better take the medicine. But don't stop believing that what came from the earth is not meant for your benefit. Sister Constance, you had your hand up?
I tend to struggle with what is the Bible verse that says something about the rich man getting into heaven is like easier
It's easier
to go.
for to put
an eye of a needle.
Yeah.
So I struggle when I hear things like this. Oh, you can be rich. It's like I've always kind of tarried with it or thinking about it, but not really receiving the whole idea of having riches. Having wealth is one thing, but like being enriched to a certain extent, it feels like that verse is saying that heaven is out of reach for the very wealthy.
So I ask you a question. So what was your, you have a problem with,
If I have to choose, I'm going to choose heaven as my goal in comparison to worldly riches.
uh-huh,
Based on, again, what that scripture said. I've read that
You-
scripture 1,000 times.
you select heaven over riches.
Yeah.
Okay.
And knowing that, I mean, if I got a mansion in the sky, let me get that.
Yeah. But you know, so people say, well, I don't have that mansion in the sky yet.
But that's only,
Right.
okay, but it's delayed gratification.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that, Dr. Tate, and then Brother Alonzo.
Cain. Well, I think that we have to return ourselves back to the story of the rich man. And the crux of the issue with the story of the rich man, and I think you can then make the analogy for this, it's harder for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven than a camel through the eye of a needle, is that the rich man put his riches over Elohim. He made it his idol. He made it his God. So much so that when he was given a direct command for himself to sell all that you have and follow me, he couldn't do it. Despite the fact that he had done all these commandments from his youth up, this personal commandment given to him to sell everything he had and to follow him, he could not accomplish that commandment because his riches were his God. And so therein lies the problem. And that's the problem for anything. And I think if we focus just on riches, there is an issue, right? That can be an easy thing to compare because you have that Bible verse. But anything that we esteem over Elohim is going to cause us to not be able to walk that narrow path. The path is narrow, no matter if you're a rich man or if you're a poor man, right? If you put your husband or your wife or your children over God, it's still going to be hard for you to get into the kingdom of heaven. You're not going to get into the kingdom of heaven, right? And so I think that number one is important to remember. There are many rich people who make their money their God. And that's not a requirement that to have money, you have to make it your God, right? Now, these like ultra mega crazy rich multi-billionaires, oftentimes they got to that point because they made money their God and they put it above everything else, right? But what I do know is that El commanded us to publish his doctrine and let it rain down like dew, right? And that is an international global ministry. And we know that it requires international global multi-million-dollar money to cause that ministry to, and that doctrine to drop down like rain, right, as the dew. And so it is going to be a requirement that we have more money in Yah's house to be able to publish his doctrine and to let it drop down like dew. And that money, not to my knowledge, isn't going to fall down like manna, right? Like we have to do the work. We have to perfect the crafts that Yah has given us so that we can have the finances to finance his movement. And so I don't think that there is anything wrong with having a goal, right? And having faith in the fact that Yah can empower you to have the insight and the plan to have a good financial footing that you might then use it and steward it to the glory of Elohim. But if you then have this focus, complete singular focus on money just for the money's sake, and you put it above El, then yeah, you're not going to get into the kingdom of heaven. And so I think therein lies some of the tricky nature, is because so many rich people put their money over El, it becomes their God, and that's where the problem lies. But there is nothing inherently wrong with wanting to have more finances, particularly if you're putting it toward the glory of Elohim, because his ministry requires it.
Amen. Brother Alonzo. My brother Alonzo had his hand up.
Okay, shalom. I agree with what Dr. Tate was saying, with the exception that I don't think this is going to be a multi-million-dollar ministry. I think it's going to be billions. Think about the world's biggest brands, and social media. It's going to take a lot of money to get Yah's message throughout the entire world. You think of like X or Twitter or Facebook. Those are billion-dollar companies, and it's going to take a lot of money for people everywhere to hear his word. So it's going to be more than millions that's going to come into Bethel, and we have to have that money to spread Yah's word. But I say this as far as money. And I'll read it from Psalms 24th chapter, verse 1. It says that the earth is the Jehovah's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. So money is really just of this world. It's really a resource that's created in this world, and it's not ours. It's really, even all the money that I've made, in my career, it's because of Yah. Yah put me in that position. So it's not my money. I'm stewarding it for Yah, and it's my responsibility to take care of that money and make sure it grows. Especially in my line of work, working in accounting and finance, if I don't grow money, it's like, okay, well, what are you doing? What was the point of this knowledge? It's kind of almost like I'm not giving Yah the glory if I'm not being able to create and manage what He's given me. Being able to multiply, it's like, how am I going to give Yah the money? How is He going to get the glory? If I'm not doing anything with it. So I say this to say also that there's going to come a time where Bethel is going to have money, and it's going to be like, everything's just it's gonna work out because Yah's gonna help us get that. It's not like we're gonna have that just to have it, and we become this rich man where now, okay, hey, we're committing to idolatry and money is our God. Like, no, that's not it. It's just a resource. I think about the parable of talents also, and how it's our responsibility to manage and nurture those talents and to build those talents, and with those talents, Yah's gonna give us the increase. So it's impossible for us to carry this mission out without money, without that resource. So I say to Yah, it's going to come a time where it's going to be an endowment for Bethel, and it's going to be millions, at some point billions, and it's going to be like, money's not going to be something we're going to have to worry about. It's not even going to, it's just going to be like, okay, hey, this is what we need to take care of Yah's mission. So yeah, I don't think it's anything inherently wrong with, the use of money or having money. It's just about how you use it.
Let me say, I'm going to call on you. What is riches? Now, I want you to think about riches.
Okay.
Let me ask you this question. I think if I ask who would like to make $250,000 a year, everybody would probably raise their hand. Would you rather have $250,000 a year, and at the end of the year, you spent $280,000? Or would you rather have $70,000 and your expenses was $20,000? Right? Would you have I don't know who y'all heartthrobs are. I can't say. I don't know. Butcher his name. Usher. Right. Oh, listen. Would you rather have a famous Hollywood man or woman, Idris Elba, who you don't know what he doing. He out there, you don't see him much. And I'm saying there are a lot of people who have that heartache, right? You got something that's like, but then you always looking where they at. Are they cheap? Or would you rather have somebody, Junebug, who faithful? He faithful. He loving you. He's giving you the attention, the time. Look, you say, I'm not going to say he was like Junebug the bum. I'm just saying. But would you rather have that commitment, that local guy who worked for Ford, but he committed and he's honorable and he loved God? Yeah, he loved you. Or would you rather have the famous person where you can walk the red carpet every now and then? So what do we define as riches? Right? Peace of mind. That's rich. Having good health. That's rich. Having enough money. Listen, I don't care if you work for the airline. You can fly for free. You going to all type of places 9, 10 times a year and enjoying life. That's rich. Right? So when we talk about riches, I don't want us to think in terms of value dollar amount. Because here's what I can tell you. Why I can tell you this, because I've never experienced it, I don't know. But at a certain point, money does nothing for you. How many times, I love to go to Florida in January. I love to go to Florida, period. But if you can go to Florida every week, that's going to get old real quick, right? If you got so much money, you done been to, and look, I don't know nothing about fashion, whatever. Fendi, I heard of some. Fendi, I don't know. Yeah, that. Yeah. But I'm just saying, if you got a lot of money, after about 4 years, how many Rolexes and suits and shoes and stuff can you buy? There are people commit suicide, they're millionaires all the time. So it's not, you said, give you the money, let you be the judge. Minister Yosef.
Two quick things. One, that Bible verse about the rich man, when you look at the end, Mashiach, they said, who then can be saved? And then Mashiach said, with men this is impossible. With El, all things are possible. So that's letting you know that that rich person, he had his riches above El. But El can save anyone. Mm-hmm. And the other one, when you said about the true riches, in Luke 16, when Shekah making a distinction between the true riches, he said, if you don't know how to use the quote unquote the money that we have here on this earth the right way, you ain't ready for the true riches. The true riches ain't the money. It's that peace, the salvation, and XYZ. So yeah, he made a distinction in Luke 16.
Told I. Anybody else? All right, let's go to the next slide. Oh, you had something?
I start with the verse.
What's the title?
Reversal is possible.
Is that where we at? Oh, okay.
I start with the verse.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you think reversal is possible in your life? I want you to think about something that's not good in your life. I shouldn't say not good. Something that's not favorable to you.
Then,
Right? Everybody think about something. You thought about it, Frank? There's something that's not favorable in a lot of our lives. There are some potentials in our lives. Some potential things that are not favorable. The value of, Dr. Tate gives a testimony about certain things. Some people have diabetes run their family. They may not have it yet, right? So there are certain things that we may be facing now, or we can potentially face those things. But the Bible says reversal is possible. Let's read. I forget what Bible verse this is. This is in the book of Esther.
then Harabana, one of the eunuchs in attendance on the king, said, moreover, the gallows that Haman prepared for Mordecai, whose word saved the king, is standing at Haman's house, 50 cubits high. And the king said, hang him on that. 10. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. This might be the most hopeful lesson. The gallows built for Mordecai became Haman's downfall. What looked final was not final. In a 21st century world filled with instability, economic shifts, cultural tension, global uncertainty, Purim reminds us that outcomes can change dramatically. Circumstances can pivot, injustice can be exposed, momentum can reverse.
And it don't seem like it. I always think about some things that I went through. Minister Yosef, think about some things that you went through, and when you were going through it, it seemed like hell. I mean, it literally seemed like you was in hell. And just to go through those things and to go through certain times, and you think about periods of your life where you were down and heartbroken and defeated. And then you look back on it. I always laugh and say this because I'm not a woman. It seemed like having them babies was just like the worst thing when you were giving birth. And I don't think it's that bad, right? When you're done, when you think about it now. I guess you can't remember the pain. Well, no, I'm saying, no. That's what I'm saying. When you get on the other side of it, you look back on it, you be like, man, yeah, that was, but it's a lot worse when you're going through the process. Look, Dante ready to come over. No, I'm just saying, like there are certain things when you're going through it, it just don't. Who had their hand up? Somebody's gonna say something. Oh, so let's go back to that slide again. So we have to. I mean, and that's the walk. Listen, what other choice do you have? Are you gonna take a defeated attitude and just say, "I give up. I'm not gonna even try"? Some people do. Because you know what? It's easier to have that mentality than to go through it. It's easy to accept life in, well, I ain't gonna say that. I shouldn't even speak to that. But certain things are easier than to fight. I think about Dr. Tate, people all the time I know that's on medicine for high blood pressure or diabetes or cholesterol, whatever. It's easier to take the medicine than to turn down that good food that I like. And so they're not focusing on the diet and they're not focusing on the exercise. Because, man, I just love, I love burgers. Right? I love whatever it is I'm eating, and people don't want to change. Y'all put you in a position for your benefit. It's causing you to change and be disciplined. And we just don't want to do it. I'm flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted by people that I see that got certain issues. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, you're not even changing your behavior. Like you got an extra large pizza. Get an extra large pizza, eat one slice. At least have discipline in that. I'm
It requires divine intervention, I was just whispering over here to Sister Constance that there is a psychology unto itself of behavior change, right? And when I think about how that verse ended that our minister Yosef was sharing, that with all things, with Yah, all things are possible. There are some behaviors that people have so deeply ingrained in them that only with Yashach, only with his power, only with his divine insight, intervention, and plan can you really change certain behaviors.
Yeah. It is. I remember looking at a interview with Ludacris, and Ludacris was talking about. He's like, "How are we talking about from Esther to Ludacris?"
21st century Purim.
Well, no. He was saying how, he was upset because his father was sick, and his father was diabetic, and the doctor's like, "You got to stop drinking. You're gonna die. You got to stop drinking." He said, "My father couldn't stop drinking." I mean, I think that's crazy that you're gonna die. That means like you stop breathing forever. Yeah, and I don't understand addiction, Dr. Tate. I don't know if it's addiction. I don't know if it's the mind that.
It's literally addiction. That's the answer. It's addiction.
Yeah, I don't. But I mean, how does addiction? Well, again, I don't understand addiction because how does that trump death?
Because it's addiction.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I have a psychological issue with understanding addiction. So, huh? Yeah. I get on.
Because you get like a certain dopamine hit with whatever you addicted to, whether it's, you know, drugs, gambling, procreating, or like anything that's gonna give you that dopamine hit that is gonna eventually wear off, and then you're just gonna need more and more of it to the point where when you're missing it, it feels like you're already dying. So why do I care about dying if I need my dopamine?
Okay. All right. All right. All right, Dr. Amy. But if you're not never been addicted, then I guess you don't understand. I think it's the same thing. I think well, I guess I can understand because I think it's the same thing when you engage in sin. And when you know that you're engaging in sin, and you know that the wages of sin is death, but some people just like, man, I just Friday night, I just like to, go out. I mean, church or the music and that vibe and the lights flashing. I mean, they might be addicted to that. I don't know. So I guess it's kind of the same thing when people are in sin. Talk to people all the time about certain things. About the Bible talk about the Sabbath day. And the Sabbath. I had a lady I was talking to the other day, and the Sabbath is kept by Christ. People say they Christians. The Sabbath is gonna be kept in a new heaven and new earth. Now you would think that a person will say, "Oh, I need to keep the Sabbath." They'll agree that it's right, but do they change their behavior? So addiction and I don't know. I think I'll be frustrated as a psychologist because if that's going on in your mind, like how do I tap in to your mind to cause you to see that what you're doing is unhealthy or that it's wrong? And it's the same thing with sin. How do I tap in? Is that y'all giving us wisdom? How do we tap into somebody and to show them? I'm going to be frank with this group here. You going to hell doing what you're doing. I mean, that's essentially what we're saying. But yet people, they justify it. It's a sickness. They justify it. They continue to do it. They make excuses. And I was one. It was hard for me with certain things in my life. And I knew what the Bible said, but I started saying, well, no, I don't think it's all that. And now you start to, I don't want to call it reprobate, because you start to convince yourself that what's right is wrong or what's wrong is right. And so that's difficult. Who else? Brother Lodge, you was about to say something?
Well, I think I was going to try to answer your question, before our sister Amy gave that profound response. The Bible says the wages of sin is death. And in order to have understanding of something, you need to have an experience. But I'd like to think that because we get those dopamine hits, because we actually know what that's like, and we don't know, the flesh doesn't know what death is like. We've never died before. So maybe we can't really understand, hey, this is killing me and I'm going to be dead, because it hasn't happened to us. We only understand the good, how our body feels. So really, I just think whether it's addiction, whether it's whatever, it's really just issues of the flesh, us not being able to control our flesh. And only person who can give us that control is Mashika. So Todia.
Wouldn't it be amazing to have a dopamine hit of knowledge? Or we want that wisdom, or to keep the Sabbath, or to walk upright. So, hey, we have to reverse that, right? We have to reverse that. All right, let's go on. I think we got one more. Ronnie, is this the last one? Is it? You may be positioned for such a time as this? That's our last one.
You may be positioned for such a time as this. Esther 4:14. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
Listen, for a second. Let's look at that picture. And it's blurred as you kind of look at it, with the people that's way in front. And that's how we are positioned. That's how we are. We are, and I don't know if we accept that there are hundreds of thousands of people And we are that unique. We're
Remnant.
the unique one, right? That is designed to influence the lost sheep. And so we have to be put in position. And you're going to have to be, how can I say, you have to be developed. You got to have something. Y'all's trying to put something in you so that when you put in a position, right, you're effective. You can get an interview. Oh, man, they only interviewing 5 people. And then they interview you and say, so tell me what you've been doing. Tell me what you know. You don't know nothing. What good is position without the preparation, without having something in you? So Yah's putting us amongst the world. And in doing that, Sister Constance, that we amongst the world, he's taking us through experiences. And he's developing us. And he's allowing us to come here and hear certain things. And little do you know that you are sponging this stuff in. And the things that you're sponging are the conversations and the things that you're going to eventually go out and regurgitate, and people are going to become saved because of you being in position. It's very important. I'm shocked at myself. I'm surprised that I'm around my parents, right, growing up. And little did I know, because I wasn't looking at them like, let me see how my daddy act when he come in the house. Or let me see how my mama talk to my daddy. Do you know I was in the midst of that my entire life, and I didn't know that my brain was recording it? I didn't know that I was going to become a product of the environment. And so when I got mature, it's like it automatically started playing. Not that I was really thinking about it, but I seen how my father treated my mother. And that caused me to want to treat my wife that way. I seen how they talked amongst each other. And I saw how I never heard them curse at one another or talk down each other. And so that's the healthy relationship that I was trying to project or that I wanted to receive. So we are here. We are here for a while. I was here for 10 years, I think. Maybe Dr. Tate 12 years before I even taught one class. I didn't even have it in me like, man, they tripping, let me teach a class. That didn't even cross my mind. But I was absorbing all this stuff. And then when it was time, when my number was called, oh, I was ready. And Yah's prepping us, right? He's prepping us so that we may be ready. Let's go ahead and read this last paragraph.
We love quoting it, but it's deeper than a slogan. Esther didn't choose her era. She didn't choose exile. She didn't choose the crisis, but she chose courage when it mattered. The 21st century is complex. Digital revolutions, moral confusion, global interconnection. Instead of wishing for another time period, Purim invites us to ask, what if we are positioned here intentionally? What if our careers, platforms, communities, and even challenges are preparation for moments that require clarity and courage?
You're right. Let's talk about that. Can somebody talk to that before we conclude?
I can jump in. I know for me, in my art practice, right, I have gone to a number of different art shows, and art can get really dark, really dark. And just to see it on display, what resides in a person and how their mind wanders through creation, and for it to be on display as something that can be evil or corrupt. Then you have the art that I make, which is heavily fringed for biblical reasons. That is, for me, it reminds me not to sin, right? And just to have sometimes my art, right next to someone else's art who may not be living a certain lifestyle, it allows for me to try to let my light shine. You know, I don't really go into detail with the everyday person about why my art looks the way it looks, or what the fringe means to me. But for me, it is my quiet rebellion to the systems of the world, even in the art world. So other people may have different careers, but for me, this is my opportunity to say, you know what, I refuse to conform to, because I know if I made darker art, would I have gone further, faster? Probably. But that's not my portion. My heart doesn't live there. So, yeah, I look forward to hearing what other people have to say about their careers and how they stand out on the platforms that they use. But that's just my personal little testimony.
Yeah, total. I just think I go back to what I said earlier. It's really having that personal relationship and really knowing for yourself who you are and who you belong to. Because just because you call yourself Yisrael and say I belong to Yah, you're going to have some dark days. Things are not going to go your way. But do we stand and say, Yah's preparing me for something? Or do we say, why I got to be in this position right now? And so he knows what's best. You know, he is Alpha and Omega. Do we have that much confidence in Yah? Do we have that much confidence in our walk? Are we convinced that we have power with God and with man, even when this life brings us down to our knees? And if we believe that, Oh, man, I'm hearing something. You ain't say nothing? I heard somebody talking. All right, go ahead, Dr. Tate.
This message about maybe Esther being brought to the king's palace, being brought there for a time such as this, is actually, interestingly enough, something that I internalize more often with the story of Joseph, and the trials and tribulations that he went through and how that prepared him for what he would do and how he would come to be so vital in preserving nations. And then it's interesting here thinking about, before when I think about Esther and being, brought there for a time such as this, I focus so much on being brought to be in the king's palace and being placed as the queen. But as I read the text of what you said, or even think about, I don't know if it was on one of the Bible study classes, but there were so many other things that happened in her life that may have lined her up to engage in the way that she did. Mm-hmm. So, being an orphan and having Mordecai being in the care of Mordecai, or even being an exile, being of a small people amidst a dominant culture that was not of Yah, and how all of those things played a role in what happens in the story of Purim, is something that I'm newly taking from this series of Purim lessons that I'm really grateful for. And I begin to reflect on my life, and it's interesting because we're on the other side of the book being written, right? We get to read the story of Joseph. We get to read the story of the chief shepherd of Queen Esther, and now we get to see all the pieces line up. But we don't always necessarily in our own personal lives get to see and experience, as we're going through it, how Yah is so perfectly orchestrating things for us to be a blessing unto him and being a blessing unto his people. We don't necessarily put all the pieces together.
Right.
But maybe with time, there are certain things that you might gather. When I reflect on my life and I think about the ways I interact in my career and interact with other people, one of the things that I think about some people might look at it differently, but I look at it as a blessing. I think about, for those of you who don't know, I have a brother with a disability, with an intellectual disability, who growing up, he couldn't do just the normal daily activities. He couldn't feed himself. He couldn't clothe himself. He didn't really speak until he's at least little more than 10 years older than me, and it wasn't until I was in college that he actually was starting to say intelligible words that we can communicate with him. And when I think about what it looked like for me to grow up with a sibling like that, he taught me so many things about patience. He taught me so many things about kindness. He taught me a lot about how to de-escalate situations when emotions can be high, because he reacts a lot based on emotions and not on logic. And so all of those pieces I've taken with me, and it has caused me to be the person that I am. I was just in a situation at work yesterday that I'll share in a testimony later on today, but the tensions were so high, and I say Toda Yah just for giving me these pieces, the characteristics of who I am that allowed me to enter into high pressure situations and enter them in it from a space of calm and from a space of de-escalation, because without that kind of character or nature, some of these situations I found myself in yesterday could have turned out a whole different way. And so I just say Toda Yah for even the things in my life that I don't know how they have shaped me, and I don't have the consciousness that Yah put those things in my life for some other reason, but I say Toda Yah for all that I've gone through thus far and all that each of us have gone through collectively thus far. And that's one of the things I take from this lesson, from Purim.
Toda Yah. We're going to get ready to close. One of the things that I think Esther had to deal with, and I'm going through this transformation in my life, where I know the Bible says about giving no thought about tomorrow. And one of the hardest things is to plan for tomorrow, but live for today. And so I begin, and maybe I'm getting older, and reality is starting to kick in. And so now my fight is for, as Sister Constance was talking about, it's for my mansion. My fight is to get to the finish line and to hear y'all say, job well done. But y'all wants us to live and enjoy and deal with today. Today has enough pressure. Then make yourself sick about what tomorrow gonna bring, and he already done solved tomorrow. He resolved your issue. It might not be resolved for 3 years. He resolved your broken heart. It might be 2 years, right? He resolved those things. And you sinned, I sinned, by allowing pressure and stress and anxiety to continue to be a part of your daily lives. And he resolved that thing. So Esther had to make a decision. Esther had to deal with what she had to deal with on that day. And then she went to bed having full confidence that I serve a living Yah. And when I wake up tomorrow, I'll deal with tomorrow. And I think it's an important, I don't want to say lesson to learn, because you got to look deep within that, deep within the scriptures to understand that Yah's in control. You got to keep telling yourself, because there are some things that's going to be horrible in your life. And you got to keep telling yourself 3 times a day, after you get off your knees and pray, that Yah's in control. And I'm living my life. I'm living a righteous life, and Yah's in control. And so we're supposed to have the scripture, and the Bible tells us to meditate day and night. I'm on this talking about this medicine kick. Meditating on his word day and night will bring your blood sugar down, your blood pressure down, right? Because you meditating, and the resolution and the peace. Peace is opposite of stress. The peace is found in his word. Go work out too. But find your source of peace in his word. And know that you serve the El of Yisrael. Isn't that something that nobody else serves him? But the true people of Israel, they think they serving him. So I have an advantage, the Bible says, in every way, because we have the oracles of El. And so we thank y'all. We thank y'all. This feast we're getting ready to enter into for the next 2 days. And then we're going into a Tuesday moon service. But we thank y'all for this Feast of Purim. We gotta get out of this what we're supposed to get out of this. There's something that you're supposed to get. There's something that's going to heal you. That's in this story. That's in this feast. It's not just traditional, but it's designed, right, to heal the brokenhearted and to give us confidence that Yah will deliver us too, right? Just like he did our ancestors during this time. Man, so we thank y'all for the lesson. This is our last lesson on Purim. And then we're going to move on. But we thank y'all for each and every one of you. We thank y'all for those that have joined our class today via our streaming platforms at #MyRestorationGospel. We want to encourage you to continue to visit our website, tvbethel.net. If you have any questions or comments, you can inbox us on our website, or you can go to Facebook at #MyRestorationGospel and send us a message. We'll make sure we get back with you. We will encourage you to check out our podcast on restorationpodcast.com. And we have, I can't spill the beans, but we got something good coming up in about another 6 weeks. We'll give more on that in the coming weeks. And we are technically 4 weeks, 3 days away from Passover. It's sneaking up on us. It's coming fast. And we are preparing. We do have a Passover feast. If you guys haven't received that information, contact our sister Shanetta. Who else? Is there anybody else? Contact our sister Shanetta, or you can inbox me on our Passover fees. Invite folks out, 7:30 p.m. I believe we have service on Passover. Actually, daylight savings is next week. So, but we'll give more information as we get a few weeks closer to. You can take that off. You can take that off. As we get closer to our Passover festival. Okay. I think that's all we have for today. Yah's willing, we look forward to seeing you at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time on next Saturday for our Sabbath class live. On behalf of our late restored Chief Shepherd, Dr. Amon, on behalf of our elders, Elder Erie and Elder Nate, I'm Elder Al. Want to depart you as I greeted you by saying Shabbat Shalom.